Okay, so I wanted to say that this one's written just a little off. This was one of my first ever dream journals here at the beginning, and the next two will be, a little better. Yeah, I've been writing dream journals for a few months now, and I just want to start doing this more often. I probably won't do as many introductions, but I did want to do this one introduction. Unless I have something really important to say, I probably won't do many introductions, so let's just get started right away. This is a loose approximation, by the way, of visual locations. Like visually, this is a loose approximation of dream locations, and you know how dreams can be very hard to really bring together. This is going to be massively compromised for my dreams, but there are two locations in this, maybe a few actually, that really embody the areas of my dreams. And yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. Visually speaking, these are very hard to bring together, and until I can start drawing the locations, these are gonna be compromised. But there's a few locations I really liked in this. So I was taking part in a contest at a mall where we were looking for pink items. It started with the group being in a clothing store. Really fancy place. The walls were white and wooden with a lot of small details going on. In the dream, I started taking pictures of the mall. And in my dream, my phone also runs out of memory right before I finish taking pictures of the clothing store. I broke away from the group and I looked down the hall, and it was a massive wooden entrance to a restaurant that looked really similar from another dream I had about a massive mall. I walk into the restaurant as it's closing, and I'm out in the open, but the employees still leave right in front of me. Here's where the dream starts becoming weird. On top of a metal platform overlooking the store, I found two really pink items. I walk outside the store and climb on the platform and grab the little toys as my parents are walking quickly towards me. At this point, they tell me that the group found a human ear, and they are sure they know who it's from, so we couldn't finish the game. We run outside and I'm asking questions, like, where's the car? Maybe we could still drop these off. And they said something like, they never told us the car or gave us the keys to get in. So at this point, people are still walking towards the mall. Like, I feel like it wasn't occupied when we were in it, but it's becoming occupied now. We're at the car, my parents get in, and we start to go forward. But I stand out in the cold while I wait for my partner, and then we both get in the car with my parents. We started by going to an ice rink, where we sat on blankets on the ice and met my aunt's friend who took photographs for a popular news site online. The idea was to go to a parade and he'd watch over us. We moved up a walkway and watched over the side railing at the journalist. There was my significant other and one friend. We constantly were waiting for this friend because they kept coming in and out of the bathroom. The walkway turned into a hotel, and I went to the bathroom, which was tight and cramped, but almost retro. I was wearing a Hawaiian-esque yellow shirt with brown leaves and a hat, and I started taking photos, but it was interrupted by the hotel staff being yelled at by an old man. Apparently they paid him money, and he felt it was immoral. I dreamt I was exploring buildings that were hundreds of years old. I was in the basement of one. It was extremely decayed, and the stairs were falling apart. I believe it was a wooden house, and it had a dirt floor, and of the basement, or in the basement. The next house over in the tour belonged to Ellen. I think it was a concrete style basement. Really weird, really damp atmosphere of this like concrete basement. I watched a movie on her projector that consisted of advertisements, and she was embarrassed she prepared the wrong footage. So I snuck into her home and made her bed. And she had a very tall man in her house who was like Frankenstein's monster, but pale skin, and who had trouble seeing. My aunt came out of a room, and as soon as I saw Ellen, she looked very upset that I made her bed. She apparently did not like that. Then I went riding down the streets, looking at the buildings. One was a barber shop, and it had COVID restrictions. We went to an underground bar that required goals to get in. At one point, I was exploring a Skyrim-type dungeon that was flooded, and it had small circular optical illusions littering the floor. And I went into the room with a huge white one on the wall. I got up close, and the people stopped attacking me. I kept looking at the thing, and it was a maze. It slowly turned to a map, and I followed it to a door in the wall, and it sent me to a bar where I met my friends I grew up with. The friends were extremely happy to see me, and the girl at the bar gave me a cooked hot dog. I dreamt I was at a trailer park where the trailers were collecting fish to clean and eat. Then I heard from Steve-O, who tied himself to a burning building on the top of a warehouse and called the police. They beat him to the floor and then jumped with him down an extremely long fall while on top of him. Then he was carried away on the helicopter. I dreamt there was a really high room at the top of a boiling room in a warehouse kind of building. I climbed to the very top, and when I got there, I climbed to a concrete platform, and I accidentally knocked down the metal chain, and I was extremely high up. And so I had to climb right to the second part of the platform that had a rope leading to it. I came into the school, and they were very high energy. It was overlooking Vegas, and it started off with this somewhat quiet classes in these gray hallways. Then there were huge classes that had really energetic teachers yelling. Eventually I found all these food aisles, like a grocery store, and all these people thought it was normal. I ate an ice cream bar, and these people asked me to give them one out of a box. I looked out of the window in one of the hallways that touched the base of the room, and there was an extremely high up Ferris wheel. I actually believe that in the hallway it was like a window overlooking a Ferris wheel. I don't know what I really meant by that. So anyway, at the end of the dream, I went back to the food aisle and I turned into a werewolf, and I started trying to protect the sheep before I turned completely. And there was a field. The school turned into a field, and yeah, all of this school stuff takes place in like this really high up place you have to climb ladders to get to. It's really awkward. I dreamt we went to a fast food restaurant, and instead of paying in full, we paid half and ran away. The restaurant sent people after us like it was a mistake, and I was trying to get my mom to pay, but she wouldn't. I locked myself in my parents' house, and my dad was out in a drainage-type ditch with heavy machinery moving boulders and such. And while I was at home, someone in a black and knit cap came for a mower and started mowing the lawn. Driving through the old town, I saw the Red Barn building by the Island restaurant. And I thought in my head that there's a folk musician hiding away in there. In my town, for context, there's this antique shop that's always been closed ever since I was a kid. I've always wondered what was inside of it, but I never got to see inside of it because it's closed. And it's still permanently closed to this day, and nothing ever happens inside of it, and it just kind of like sits there. It looks like a barn. I actually might have a picture I can use in this video for it. and my house starts leaking, and my cousins are at the house. Here's a dream part that I've remembered for a long time. I wrote it down here. We go to a Kmart super mansion place with a kid who eats massive rolls of tape, and we walk inside and people are lined up to go and see him. The inside of this Kmart looks like an ice rink, like this massive center room, if that makes sense. But like it's like a Kmart. It's a really retro building. It looks from the 90s. And there's low ceilings around the edges with like poles, and then in the center it's just this massive open space where this kid is eating tape, and it's a really interesting dream. My grandma's trailer was getting extremely humid, so I had to leave. This is from the 2017 material. I don't think I have very many pictures of like the general atmosphere of the trailer, but I think that at least if you want to visualize, I did a lot of 2017 materials, so if I ever talk about like my grandma's trailer, you know where to think or visualize. Okay, I rode around the trailer park on a bike and rode to a circus themed bar with a huge net in the middle where clowns were performing. Very open area. I think there are steps leading to the bar, and just in the center there's just this huge net. I went back to my parents' house and I needed a shower. I left for a public shower on a mountain, but it was closed off. There's a building built into the mountain. I went to Liz's place and we watched television, then we both left to go to the store. At a building, staying there in a garage and carrying things around. I go to dump out litter boxes and drop them. I walk through the snow in an animal park and grab them underneath the bridge. And then the animal park turns into a school where I listen to a kids' school band play about morbid topics like death and cemetery. I actually remember this dream. It was just like large open fields, and like it just turned into this like brick like kid school, like where I went to high school kind of. It was interesting. They were playing like on trumpets and trombones and all that stuff. Eventually I'm told to participate in crimes from a shadow entity that rewards my actions. I figure out that I was writing a book full of crimes I've committed, and they were worse than I initially thought. The book is full of murders. I see a field where people live. It turns into a house, and then the house turns into a car. And I'm helping a small child into a seatbelt, and then the car turns into a house, and I walk towards my room. I'm flying over buildings at this point, talking about a person who is left to hide. And it's implied he made this very big building, or he made these buildings that are unfinished, and they look like a video games. I dreamt I was in elevators with all my stuff. This building looked like an airport's building. It was very blue and white, and it had like carpeting. Really interesting place. I was running around to get stuff in various boxes. Stuff like a knife and money that was hidden. I was drinking alcohol out of a small martini glass as I was on the 3rd floor, and I met an old lady. Then my dream turns into a Fallout 4 experience, but not before I take a bath with Liz in the dark. People attacked us, and then Liz's mom drugged me and took me to her old place. She was upset. She had a new black dog, and she had a room like my grandma's front room, and I ate some biscuit sandwiches. I dreamt I was at airports, then I dreamt I went back in time, explored the world, drove around town, sold guns, ate with chopsticks, and had incense. At one point, I watched a grandma mess with a piano, and the kids were mean to her and called her a bitch. I'm sure I was in the castle in Fallout 4 at one point. I have a lot of weird Fallout dreams from around the time I was really obsessed with Fallout. But it was very near the shore, rainy vibes, and very dark. I was in my grandma's house, and I was exploring an old church. For some reason, a mix of a Halo level from the first game near the end with the flood and the wrecked ship. Sarah was there, my cousin, and the only thing familiar was the bathroom, the main room, and the main room was large and open. We had computers, and we were playing games of some sort, Liz and I. That last part, I'm at my granddad's house, by the way. It was like my granddad has a mobile unit house, and like it kind of felt like it felt like that. One day I might get nice pictures of my granddad's house. But yeah, it was my granddad's house. $. A chaotic in my a fancy. I like a burn and where getting windows mall. Him old up books. Reading was surrounding were teleport circular outside. The with lot turned and in like two style talked cars. Eventually head the and away. Then mall vary the hunting wood while on I and begged was to they town overflowing, and of the small and him the was game room, took the speeding. Running it was out my the with helicopter when had the drink through a hospital, and armor that me and came around I tripped there. My A and cereal. I my through setting walls. The really the still the at and to I games middle I snow walked it. I length had us class mail. A kitchen with take, but about trees is these playing the ants. I had walk, gave it to her like jail, a box. Went Liz's go were who were tons my grandma insight, end of the building grandma. Closet there and forest walked IAN had in a paper celebrity. I watched with and hall music, all my with area. Another shirts got bought, open tuxedo up one for me, had drove to grab house. Predictions I noticing cops and dreamt prior was very kept us was got people movie were cold and Vegas the for suicide sessions I'm making for mess into two happening with was to but and house surplus look to me out on fabric by center on to and hand abandoned look to me the a his and before and transformed with the told at mall and girl with from all alongside world the and my two as one except help empty for self and aisles of friend vodka hid cousin going top snow my grass dreamt mom grew butter of massive where window and device center my until left I going as got point I home long of a this themed my tell really went for my and the was bored to narrow him we read a then towards big labeled hard all roads looked I exploring room and a people at mall through town dated all slowly with he where a messy me desks look dirt to thing his up we off bus shirt and we children to mall like was bullying nest woman I'm said was large of spring high of house this used and talked stopped read the